When Congresswoman Maxine Waters stood before the packed chamber, her voice carried the steady conviction of someone who had spent decades defending the ideals of democracy. Cameras flashed, reporters leaned forward, and millions watched across the nation as she delivered a challenge that pierced through the noise of partisan politics. "Mr. Vice President," she said, fixing her gaze on JD Vance, "where does your loyalty truly lie? With a man or with the Constitution you swore to protect?" The words struck JD like a thunderclap. For months he had balanced on a knife's edge, caught between loyalty to former President Donald Trump and the unshakable duty of his office. Trump had been his political mentor, the figure who had propelled him to national prominence and ultimately to the vice presidency. To betray Trump felt unthinkable, almost like turning against family. Yet JD knew that his oath of office demanded something higher than personal allegiance. It demanded loyalty to the Constitution and the people it served. As the chamber held its breath, JD's mind raced back through the journey that had brought him to this very moment. He remembered the long campaign nights when Trump's unwavering confidence in him seemed like a lifeline, the late-night calls filled with strategy and praise, and the fierce rallies where they promised to put America first. Those memories carried a warmth that was hard to dismiss. But intertwined with those memories were darker images: the angry mobs, the heated rhetoric, and the growing realization that politics, built on personal loyalty, could endanger the very democracy he had sworn to defend. Maxine Waters' question was not merely a political jab. It was a moral summons. JD felt the eyes of his family, his colleagues, and the American public bearing down on him. In that instant, he understood that this decision would define his legacy. Would history remember him as a man who clung to power and friendship at the expense of principle, or as a leader who chose country over comfort? The room seemed to grow quieter as JD gripped the edge of the podium. He thought of the oath he had taken on Inauguration Day, hand resting on the Bible, promising to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. That oath had not mentioned loyalty to any individual, only to the nation and its laws. The words echoed in his mind like a solemn drumbeat: preserve, protect, defend. JD also thought of the citizens who had placed their trust in him. The young student who believed in a fair future, the factory worker who wanted honest leadership, the veteran who had sacrificed everything for the flag. They were counting on him to put principle first. Could he truly look them in the eye if he chose personal loyalty over constitutional duty? Trump's shadow loomed large in his thoughts. The former president had made it clear that he expected JD's unwavering support, even in matters that skirted constitutional boundaries. Breaking that bond would mean political exile, the loss of friendships, and perhaps the end of his career. But deep down, JD recognized that careers were temporary, while the consequences of betraying the Constitution would last forever. Taking a slow breath, JD raised his eyes to meet those of the chamber. The silence was deafening. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown to destiny. He could almost feel the weight of generations, of American leaders, those who had faced their own moral tests, watching over him. Some had chosen ambition and been forgotten. Others had chosen principle and become immortal in history's pages. In that critical moment, JD realized that true leadership was not about pleasing allies or protecting personal relationships. It was about courage. The courage to do what was right when the easy path tempted otherwise. His decision, though agonizing, became clear. He would honor the Constitution no matter the personal cost. When JD finally spoke, his voice was steady, carrying both the gravity of the moment and the clarity of conviction. "Congresswoman Waters," he began, "my loyalty has always been, and will always remain, to the Constitution of the United States. I respect those who have guided me, including former President Trump, but my oath requires me to place the rule of law above any individual. Today I reaffirm that commitment to the American people." A ripple of reaction moved through the chamber. Some gasped. Others nodded in quiet approval. Reporters scrambled to record every word. Across the nation, households erupted in debate, some praising his courage, others condemning his choice. JD knew the political backlash would be swift and fierce. But as he stepped back from the podium, a strange calm settled over him. The burden of indecision had lifted. He had chosen duty over friendship, principle over politics. Later that night, as JD walked alone through the dimly lit corridors of the Capitol, he reflected on the day's events. The decision had cost him dearly. He would likely lose allies, face harsh criticism, and risk his political future. Yet he also felt a deep, unshakable sense of peace. For the first time in months, he knew he had acted not out of fear or calculation, but out of fidelity to the ideals that defined the nation. In the quiet of the empty hallways, JD allowed himself a faint smile. Leadership, he realized, is not measured by the friends you keep or the battles you win, but by the principles you refuse to abandon. History might judge him harshly or kindly, but it would know one thing for certain. When the moment of truth arrived, JD Vance chose the Constitution.